Yes, hello again. This is now tarot lesson number 138, and it's a bit more about the Celtic Cross. So, the last one, Dementia and Scott left their interpretation and of these cards here, the future and me, other people, hopes and fears, and the final outcome. And I'll get to their interpretations quite soon, probably in the next video. Because in the meantime, I've got some points I'd like to make about the Celtic Cross itself. And if I can begin with this, that's a chessboard. And so if you've ever played chess, a lot of people talk about at the beginning of a game, these four squares are the important ones, the center of the board. And if you control these squares, it gives you a lot of control over the whole board. So a knight here can control that multiple different squares. And a bishop here can go back and forth this way and that way. Whereas if you've got a piece in the corner, it really can't move that much. So there's something about, in the beginning of a chess game, if you focus on controlling the center of the board, you end up stronger. And that made me think, what if a tarot card is telling you what to do? So in the beginning of the chess game, try and control the center of the board. And there are multiple different ways of controlling the center. And in the same way, a card can tell you what to do, but there are multiple ways of doing it. And you, the reader, have got your own experiences and knowledge and expertise. So you would recommend one thing. So let's say the question is, how do you get control of the situation? And one person might say, be nice to everybody and they'll like you and then they'll be more willing to cooperate. Somebody else might say, no, the thing to do is make them afraid of you and then they'll obey. So we know there are multiple different ways of getting to the same answer or getting to the same result. So if we think about the first card in a Celtic Cross as this, the one I did happens to be the Eight of Cups. This is telling me, it's partly telling us what the spread is about, but think of it as, this is what I'm supposed to do. And if you look at the first card in a Celtic Cross and think, this card shows it's a time for, right? It's a time for moving on. It's a time for putting things in order, the 3 and the 5. But rather than staying here and working with what you've set up, you leave it behind and you move on to something new. So it's not about staying put. It's about change. So what's the card for? It's a time for doing something. It's a time to do something. There was another preposition I was thinking of. It's a time for. It's a time to. It's a time of. OF. It's a time of moving out. It's a time of change. Whereas if we get a different starting point and you look at, if I can get this card off here. No, not that. Okay, the Hierophant. Okay, with the Hierophant, it's a time of study, learning, teaching what you know if you're this person, or it's a time of studying if you're these two people. If it's this upside down, it's a time of not studying, but actually doing something with the knowledge that you've got. And when you know it's a time of not so much studying, gathering more information, but making use of what you've got, depending on the question and depending on the questioner, if you're the questioner, you know what you know, and you know what you've been putting off doing or what you've been putting off putting into practice. So the reader doesn't need to know exactly what the person ought to do, but you're giving them the idea of first control the center of the board, first move on, first learn more, first the Queen of Swords. Sit still, because the Queen is sitting down. Sit still and be clear and be definite and be decisive, because you've got a sword in your hand and a sword cuts cleanly. If it's upside down, what you do is it's a time to not be so demanding of other people and not so critical. Don't be like the Queen of Swords upside down. Don't be beating everybody up and making them feel guilty and making them feel small and stupid. So the first card is the present position, or it's the atmosphere surrounding the question. So maybe you look at it, it's a time to, or a time of, or a time for. That means that the second card is the opposing force. So this is what gets in the way, or what stops you doing what the first card. So this is me. I want to get ahead, or I want to leave order behind and move into something new. But because it's the Tower and it's the opposing force, I'm saying but. Because sometimes with the opposing force, there is no opposition. Ten of Cups. It's, okay, it's time to move on. And is anything really going to hold you back? Not really. It's a 10 for a card of transition. So sometimes you find that the opposing force is seriously difficult, like in this case, the Tower. But sometimes the opposing force is kind of minimal and isn't going to hold you back much, or isn't going to hold you back at all. So look on the second card, the opposing force, the obstacles, what gets in the way, what stops you doing what the first card is telling you to do, or what gets in the way of the time shown by the time of action or inaction shown by the first card. Then the third card is the foundation, and I've got the world reversed. So the foundation, I think, is interesting because you build on a foundation. So you look at the card in the third place to get an idea of something about the past, because it's the foundation, but also what I have, what I've got, what's in my possession to build on. Because sometimes the foundation can be really strong. Here it's the world, but it's upside down. So it's like 90 out of 100 as a starting point. I'm sort of almost there, or maybe I was almost there, but I had to take a step back because it's upside down. Whereas if the foundation is the Eight of Swords, there isn't much you can do. You've been hemmed in, you've been restricted, and so your forward motion, movement forward, is going to be limited, and you're only going to be able to take maybe one step, or maybe you're only going to be able to see 2 steps ahead. Whereas with the world, I think because it's a stronger and more wide-ranging card, even though it's upside down, I think that means that I can actually have an idea of the intermediate future and maybe the long-term future as well. If I want distance or long-distance information, I think I can get it. Whereas if I'd got the Eight of Swords reversed as the foundation, it's not going to happen. I can get an idea of next week maybe, or next 2 weeks, but if I look to 6 months from now, I'm not going to be able to see it because too much can change. And maybe because I've got used to being trapped. And you know what it's like when you've been in a situation for a while where you haven't been able to do much, haven't been able to change much or try different things. You get kind of not set in your ways, but you get maybe reluctant to try new opportunities, or maybe you're thinking new opportunities are not going to come my way, and by thinking like that, you sort of prevent them coming your way. There's an awful lot to be said for how we think and how what we're thinking and what we're focusing on to a large extent determines what we get back, what comes into our life. So that's that. Then the influence is passing away, and I got the Five of Swords. So I had a thought about this a couple of days ago. The Five of Swords, I found I've normally thought about it as 3 people, or when it comes up in a reading, I'll talk about 3 people. Somebody who won, somebody who lost, and somebody going off to help or comfort the person who is lost. But maybe instead of 3 people, it shows 3 moods that the person is in, or 3 experiences they have. So on the one hand, I feel victorious and in control and in charge because I won, or because I was the victor, right? But at the same, so that might I might feel like that in the morning. In the evening, I might feel like this person who's been defeated. So instead of it being 3 different people, maybe it's 3 phases or 3 emotions that the questioner goes through. And so I can be confident here, I can be pessimistic here, and then I need to comfort myself, or I need to give myself a pep talk, maybe when I'm feeling low or when I'm feeling discouraged, whatever it happens to be with this person here. I need to, or it's a good idea to remind myself of what's real or what's true or what works, and remind myself that in a lot of ways I can create my own future. But it's just that I want to make the point that this card, instead of being 3 people, it can be 3 phases that the questioner goes through at different times of day, or at different times of the week, or in different weeks. Then what may come is the 6 of Pentacles. So it's a kind of balance and harmony. And it's a possible line of development. If you like it, you can go for it. But if you don't like it, you don't have to have it. And that's the point about this 5th card. If you don't like it, it doesn't have to happen, whereas this has to happen. And I got the Ace of Swords upside down. So this is this is me walking away, wanting a new beginning and wanting to change. But what's going to happen in the immediate future is an ace for a new beginning, but it's upside down. It's not going to happen. There are going to be delays. I would have preferred that and that. This is what may come. Maybe no new beginning. The immediate future, things are going to go well because there's harmony and there's balance. But I didn't get that. So me right now, or the questioner at the time of turning over the card, is the 9 of Pentacles. And so there's a word that goes with this card, and the word is reason. Not reason, the reason you did something, but the idea of reasoning and thinking things through and being not mentally confused and not emotionally upset, which would be cups, a reverse cups, for instance. But it's more like you look at the facts, and you look at logic, and you look at percentages, and in the light of gathering information and reasoning it out, you come to a conclusion about what is going to happen. And because it's upright, I'm in good shape. I personally am in good shape because I can understand what's going on. I can see the strengths and weaknesses, but in the end, I reach a position of balance. The influence of other people is this Queen of Pentacles. And because that's Pentacles, and because I'm Pentacles, the influence of other people is other people helping out or getting in the way, depending on what the question is about. So the Queen of Pentacles, other people are helpful and cooperative and useful and valuable and all the rest of it. And because the other people are represented by Pentacles, and because I'm represented by Pentacles, we're kind of on the same page. You know what I mean? So if somebody makes a suggestion, I can see the sense of it, and I can go along with it and agree with it. Whereas if they say, don't do that, I can understand why they're telling me not to do that. And I can agree with them that their suggestion to not do that is a good idea. So the fact that it's the same suit here and here, I think can be an indication that other people involved in the question and me, we can see eye to eye. Then the I can't remember if it's upside down or not. I couldn't find my piece of paper. But either way, the card here shows hopes and fears. And again, there was something struck me from this card here about this card, because the hopes and fears, the card in the hopes and fears position, I tended up until now to think of it as either hopes or fears. It's about the future, because hopes haven't happened yet, fears haven't happened yet. So this card here shows maybe how you're behaving in the future. But then it occurred to me, maybe it's hopes, because it's hopes and fears. Maybe it's not one moment in time where next Tuesday I feel anxious because it's the Ten of Swords. Maybe on Friday I feel anxious. On Saturday I don't feel anxious. And I see that. So maybe I'm looking at this Ten of Swords as ruin, right? On Friday it's all falling apart. On Saturday I look at it as a 10 for a new beginning. And then on Sunday I look at the dark clouds are lifting, so I'm more optimistic and confident because the darkness is moving away. And then on Monday or Tuesday, I'm feeling vulnerable again because I'm lying on my face down and I've got swords in my back. You know what I mean? So the card in this position, it's not just one moment or one incident that's shown. It can be a situation that comes and goes, or that happens more than once during the course or during the lifetime of the spread. And then the last card is the Hanged Man reversed. I'm pretty sure it was Hanged Man reversed, so it's all going to take an awful lot longer. So partly because people asked a while ago about how do you know, or could we look at cards and see how they actually turned out? And also because people have asked about doing a reading for yourself. The reason I did this spread is because on the 25th, I think it was, of March, my wife had a heart attack. And we went to emergency, and it happened in the emergency room that she was feeling unwell, and we got and paramedics took us to the emergency room while she was in there, of all places, to have a heart attack. And a doctor appeared like 30 seconds later, and there was this big fella gave her CPR. She fractured 5 ribs, but that's what you pay for CPR. So then about 2 weeks later, on the day of the eclipse, on the 5th of April, or the 8th of April, she had a open heart surgery. And so they get you up and walking quite quickly afterwards to get the heart going and heart working again. So the surgeon said the surgery was fine. And so this a couple of days after the surgery, and I wanted to know how, my wife's name is Susan, how her recovery would go. And that's partly why I would have preferred this, right? The 6 of Coins here as the immediate future, not the Ace of Swords reversed, because we got her home too soon, we all thought, apart from the medical staff in the hospital. And then she really was washed out, and so we went back to emergency 2 days later, and it turned out she's got excess fluid and a certain amount of blood in the chest, around the lungs and the heart. So she's back in coronary care unit, and they figured out what the problem was. It wasn't lack of willpower to walk, as the people in the first hospital thought. It was more the fact that she had way too much fluid, which apparently happens 2 months after surgery. You get this kind of problem. And I think that's the Ace of Swords reversed here. And there might need to be another little, apparently you can make a window in the chest to use needle or to use a syringe to draw fluid from around the heart. So I'm telling you this. So me here, I'm okay. I mean, I don't mean that in that kind of a way, but so I'm looking at the information and I'm not panicking. I'm not freaking out. I'm being kind of logical about the whole thing. And that's shown by that Nine of Pentacles. Other people have been really good, and we can all agree. And so I've had a couple of moments when I thought maybe the worst is going to happen, but it doesn't last. If the Ten of Swords had been reversed, I can imagine that I would be, I mean, as some people are, they're really worried and really anxious all the time. Whereas the way it happened, having a heart attack in an emergency room, it's like, it's all going to be okay, because she could have had the heart attack at home, and by the time we got to the hospital, that would have been it. So I'm telling you this so that we've got an actual spread, and I can tell you what happens. And I'm going to look at what Dementia and Scott said in their interpretation of these last 5 cards. But if you want to look at this particular layout, and if you've got ideas or thoughts about cards and what they mean, or what you might say to somebody, if this had come up for you let's say the question says, okay, what's going to happen? This person's just had surgery. What's going to happen? How is the recovery going to be? What kind of thing would you say in the light of these cards? Because it's not all over yet. I think we're still in this stage with the Ace of Swords reversed. And it may be with the Hangman reversed. It takes people 6 months to get over open heart surgery. Maybe it's going to take Susan a year. 12, the Hanged Man, number 12, maybe 12 months. We'll see. So I'm not looking for sympathy, because I'm sure people watching this, some people have got problems way much harder than I've got and that Susan's got. But if you want, knowing the background now, what might you tell me extra about any of the cards or any combination of cards that could be useful about interpreting a spread? Okay, so that was it for the moment. I'm just putting these cards back so that when I shuffle them, they're not sort of in the same relative position as they were with this spread. And so that's it for this lesson. So have a think about what you would say, and have a think about, with a Celtic Cross, the meaning of a card, the meaning of a particular position, rather. So the atmosphere, it's a time for, or it's a time of, or it's a time to. And then you've got information about it's a time to do something, but there are multiple different ways of doing that thing. Okay, I don't know how long that took, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you. If I'm late, it's, hospital visits. Okay, bye-bye.